Hi guys, and welcome back to another Let's Build episode. So last episode we were working on a plan for the new city of this entire island, the capital city of this entire island, Lordsport. Now if you're new to the channel at all, we do a lot of tutorials and time lapses, just like this one, so make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now if you're new to the series at all, I'll leave a link in the card above, and also in the description, so you guys can catch up. So anyway guys, what we're going to be working on today is going to be a new castle. This is going to be the first build that we're going to do in the city of Lordsport, and it is going to be Graywharf Castle. So without further ado, let's get into building. So what we're going to be doing is laying out this bridge. So initially I had built it straight and I thought, well, straight is quite boring and it doesn't look very visually interesting anymore, especially if you got something like this, which is repeating arches over and over. So I decided to angle it, and I also decided to make it go up as well. So I had a look at this kind of natural place where we had this small, really small cliff where the island that we're going to be building the castle is on, and then building that across to the mainland and the kind of part of the old city that we've called East Point. So you can see me just adding in the small amounts of detail here, making those archways looking more interesting. And what I did is I had, because it's quite a large bridge, had 3 pillars on each of these, and then between each of those then started doing some archways as well, so higher up archways. So I did a lot of arches on this, lots of slabs and stairwork. Just adding in the small details on the top there, trying to go with stone slab on the top this time, because I want to make it look a little bit brighter, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do with a lot of the castles in this place, to make it look quite polished. That's the idea that I wanted to go with this one. So just adding in extra bits of details across the top of this. So yeah, no, try and make it pop a little bit, because of course before it just didn't quite. So there we go, adding those extra bits of arches, making it pop, giving it that kind of really 3D effect to add a lot of interest into it. And of course now with the wall textures, we can now have those underwater, or have been able to for a little while, but it just adds a lot more to your actual build. But there is the bridge to the mainland. So now just templating out the main castle. Of course, like always, I'm using my magenta wool. I love myself some magenta wool for all of these kind of things. Now, for you guys that haven't watched me before, the reason I do this is I use World Edit, and if you have one material, you can then just mask that material and you can apply a brush, so you can get a really good mix of materials across with that. So using orange wool for any sort of floors, and using the magenta wool for any of the actual walls of the castles and all of that kind of side of it. So you can see me building a couple of towers. We've got the gatehouse, and we've got these towers around here, and we've also got this circular part of it here. This is where we're going to actually have cannons. So yeah, going to have like more of a lower wall, lots of cannons there. You'd have lots of cannonballs. That's where you're going to have most of your actual artillery pieces for protecting this bay. Then just coming around to the back here, what I want to do is actually build quite a large tower. So I've actually decided with this one to build 2 keeps, bizarrely. So it's a bit of a strange castle. It's kind of got 2 keeps, so it's got 2 main buildings. And here we go, here's the other one right at the back here. So this is going to be the main kind of residence, because it's away from the main kind of bay, or the main channel in the bay. It makes sense this is going to be the main kind of lord's residence. The idea with this build in particular was that it was initially the castle that was used by the lords of Lordsport. So later on they moved to the main island when the actual city grew, but and now it kind of gets used for a different purpose of unloading kind of ships' cannons and also protecting the bay. So it's kind of been repurposed. So they would have had, that's the reason I've got in my mind anyway of why they've got these 2 keeps. So we've got this one over by the water side. That one is going to be where we're going to actually have a dock on the other side of it to the water, where the cannons get unloaded. These days though, most of the hull in this one gets used for storing the cannons. So when ships come in, they drop off the cannons on a deck, or on a dock even, and then they can get pulled in and they get stored. So think of it like a actual warehouse more than anything else now. And more than likely what we're going to end up doing with this back one here is using that one for the main residence for the guards. Now I'm actually not planning on using the town watch as having this as their actual main kind of keep. What we're going to do is actually have that as the main castle on East Point. So that's going to be in a later episode. We're actually going to have them. So these guys are the actual you know, the main kind of dock authority as such. So that's why we're going to have them as that. But of course they will also have some guards around here as well to make sure they protect those cannons, because they're quite important. So you can see me just putting in the details using dark prismarine for the actual roof. So that was from one of you guys who actually suggested that on another one of my videos. So coming in to actually add in all the details on this one, I built it up a little bit more because when I was having a look at it, it just didn't look quite big enough. And it's one of those things, it's really difficult until you actually build houses. You don't actually really know how big to build everything else. So I decided to go up an extra floor. I think I probably could have done with doing even an extra floor on top of that afterwards. But it kind of works for the whole lore behind this place of having this slightly smaller castle than you might have had for the city that's around it, because of course it was the first one, it was the first residence, and they've now moved. So adding all these details in, making sure we've got like a nice little balcony, we've got a couple areas where we can shoot down. It's also got a portcullis in there, and then just detailing around the tower on the side of this one. So if we come around to this side area here, building up the tower, again using that stone slab, I really like the look of it, it looks nice and polished, and I think it makes the kind of like city look a lot more impressive than, for example, Clipped Off. So, you know, that castle that I built in episode 3 of this Let's Build series. So, you know, building up that. And also trying to add a little bit of detail to the walls. So actually with this one, having the walls where they've got an internal walking area and then using the kind of like spruce wood going across that and pushing that out to add interest onto it. There we go, you can see me adding in those cannons. So this is where you'd have most of the firepower, and you wouldn't necessarily have those in the towers themselves. So this is why they're in this really low area where they can have some big cannons and they'll be able to fire across from there. Now getting on to the first keep. When I was looking at it, it looked a little bit small. So this is the main tower. So from my castle tutorial, which I did recently, I think it was my 25 by 25, I really like the design of this one big tower with these 4 corner towers, which I can't remember what they're called. Sorry, you guys will correct me in the comment section. But you know, adding in that, and I also wanted to push it out, so I kind of stole heavily from one of my own tutorials when I was looking at this. I was like, actually, yeah, it totally fits in here. So it's a bigger version of it, so I expanded that out, put it up a couple more extra floors as well to match that of the height of the rest of the towers. And there you go, you can see me putting in those small turrets on the side. I'm pretty sure they're called turrets, there we go. And having this very similar design here, but yeah, having the main tower, the main kind of fortification there, and having another tower on the side there, which can then loom over that bay, and it protects this gatehouse that you can see that goes into this courtyard that we've got between those 2 keeps. And we've got that nice 45-degree angle. So around to the front, we're just adding in even more details and trying to make it look just a hell of a lot better than it was before. So I'm adding in like a stone balcony with a nice canopy on there. The idea being then that, you know, if you had a commander on there to talk to all the troops or all of the port authority officers, guards, whatever you want to call them, we can have them in there. Then sprucing up the tower. Now, of course, because it was a residence, and therefore at that point in time, probably it wasn't going to be under a lot of attack. I decided to put in quite a bit of glass on the upper levels. So there we go, we've got some nice glass there. So those would potentially, maybe if this was the first keep, this would be where the Lord would be living, and then maybe they moved into the other keep afterwards when they kind of had a bit more money. Just adding in a bit of detail around there. Now that we're coming around to the side, it's time to get onto the docks. One of the most important parts of this, and the whole reason that this is now still being used, is that, yeah, so when you get ships coming into this harbour, this natural bay that we've actually got here of Lordsport, they have to unload their weapons if they are above a, you know, if they've got above a certain amount of weapons, or those weapons are above a certain class. So just plopping in my brig that I built earlier this week. I'll leave a link in the description to that time lapse if you are interested in seeing that brig, and also let me know if you want a tutorial for that brig. But yeah, just putting that in there and having that where it's being unloaded, so you can see we're just adding in all of the docks here. I want it to be quite large, and it gets pushed out quite a bit because I didn't want to really affect the beach underneath, or not really the beach, but the it's really soft layering that we've actually got going on with sand going into the bay. So I didn't want to have the, you know, have to cut into that for the ship to fit. Instead, I was thinking, let's be natural. What would they actually do? And they would, of course, extend out. And I think it actually looks quite cool. Then just in the background there, I'm actually adding in a crane, and that is to unload the cannons. So we've got that going across there. And then just having in some extra details on here and on the main tower as well, adding in a big bit of fortification off of the side of that. So just jutting out of that is a nice big fortification, and adding in some kind of like buttresses on the side of these towers for extra kind of fortification, extra support as well. Now moving on to the main kind of residence, so this is the kind of hall. When I was actually looking at it, I wasn't totally happy with the whole, you know, my 4-tower thing that I had going on with the hall. So I decided to, well, one, raise it up and then edit the towers a little bit. So I wanted to make them a little bit different, so you can see me adding in that and adding in these extra layers on top. We've also got this other lower tower here. This is where I'm actually going to be adding in some cannons. So this is, again, more defense from here. So if there is a ship that made it all the way into the bay, past that first set of cannons, then they get into a second bit which they cannot hit from their first kind of entry into the base. So the idea being you've got layered defense as always. So we're just adding in some details. We've also got a ramp on the side here. So if there was anything that needed to get onto the island at all, they can then land on the beach. I'm thinking more small ships for supplies or anything like that. They can just pull those up onto the beach, and then they've got a ramp as well to actually pull up anything into there. Just adding in even more details around the side of this, and we've got a nice big window on this again. This keep, because it's going to be less exposed to everything, I decided to have a nice big window on that hull. And then on this big tower here, I decided to go with super fortification on the side. I actually really like the look of this one. It looks quite heavy and like heavy duty, like a really heavy duty tower, but you can walk all the way around the outside of that tower. And it's got this huge stone fortification all the way around it, and it just makes that tower, you know, look really different to the rest of them. I quite like it. So having these other towers built up now, and then just adding in bits of windows where we can, and again building up supports on the sides. So since this is going to be the second keep, I decided to build out on it, and also that wall was really flat, so I decided to build these two towers, having a joining part around that, and then again having a portcullis, and then there'll be a door behind that. And then just adding in more interest, so bringing forward some of the walkways so you can actually walk around most of the top layer of this castle. Building up that gatehouse on the side here with a portcullis, and I think it's looking pretty cool and getting all nice and finished. So here it is, guys, Castle Graywharf, all completed. I'm pretty happy with how it's going. It is a small castle, relatively speaking, that is, but really nice design. I love how the bridge kind of works and kind of like looks quite nice, and it's on an angle. We then have this nice big gatehouse. So you can imagine trying to attack this from land would be relatively difficult, but the main thing is it's protecting the bay. So we've got these, you know, large cannons that would be here on this side, and of course we've got my small brig that I built earlier in the week on here, and if you guys are interested, I'll leave a link in the description again to that time lapse. But we've got that nice big tower, that big keep there, and yeah, pretty happy with how all this turned out. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.